My mom doesn't want to accept my new boyfriend. She says I shouldn't have left my previous one, but he didn't dedicate time to me anymore because he was focused on his doctorate and his research work. My new boyfriend, on the other hand, since he doesn't work, all his time is for me. Plus, he raps very well. Teresa, my mother, constantly visits and ruins the energy of my space. She walks in, looks around, and drops this heavy, toxic sigh that completely throws off the feng shui of my entire apartment. It is exhausting having to constantly defend my lifestyle choices against someone who is completely brainwashed by traditional societal expectations. She acts like my living room is a crime scene just because it doesn't align with her outdated 1950s worldview. Honestly, her negative aura is the only real problem in my life right now, but she refuses to see how her judgment limits her own spiritual growth. Every single time she sits down, she brings up my ex, Brandon, as if he were some kind of lost royalty. Just because Brandon was a PhD researcher with a supposedly guaranteed future, she thinks I should have stayed and suffered in silence. She cannot comprehend that a fancy title does not equate to emotional availability or relationship alignment. To her, a man with a steady corporate trajectory is the ultimate prize, regardless of how hollow the actual dynamic feels. She is completely blinded by his academic credentials and ignores the fact that he was completely draining my energetic reserves. The absolute truth is that Brandon was completely trapped in the soul-crushing corporate matrix and had zero time for me. He would spend 12 hours a day staring at data sheets and conducting research, treating our relationship like a low-priority footnote. I was tired of playing second fiddle to a laboratory and a bunch of academic journals that would never love him back. He claimed he was building a foundation for our future, but that is just a classic gaslighting tactic used by men who refuse to prioritize their partners in the present moment. A real relationship requires immediate, unyielding presence, not a promise of attention 5 years down the line when the tenure track is complete. Luckily, I woke up and learned from enlightened relationship gurus on TikTok that true masculine value is measured by availability. The algorithm specifically guided me to videos explaining that if a man truly values you, his schedule should be completely clear for you. Anything less than absolute, unfiltered time is just a sign of low effort and emotional unavailability. The modern dating coaches completely exposed the matrix lie that men need to be busy to be valuable providers. Once you understand that time is the ultimate love language, you stop accepting the scraps that distracted men throw your way under the guise of hard work. That is exactly why I manifested my new boyfriend, Jax, who operates on a completely different vibrational frequency. Jax doesn't have a traditional job, which means his energy and time belong entirely to our spiritual and emotional connection. He isn't enslaved by an alarm clock or a boss, so he can actually focus on nurturing our bond without the toxic stress of capitalism dragging him down. My mother thinks a man without a 9-to-5 is a red flag, but she is just projecting her own deep-seated economic insecurities onto my enlightened lifestyle. Jax has liberated himself from the system, choosing instead to dedicate his existence to artistic expression and being fully present for me. Right now, Jax is sitting right here on my beige couch, deeply immersed in recording improvised rhymes on his phone. His flow is absolutely incredible, filled with raw, unfiltered truths that completely shatter the superficial narratives of mainstream music. Watching him channel his inner genius without any corporate constraints proves to me that I made the ultimate upgrade. He doesn't need a laboratory when he has the raw power of his words to shift reality and build a movement. Every lyric he drops is a testament to his freedom, and I get to be the exclusive muse for his beautiful, unbothered creativity. Meanwhile, my mom just stares directly at the floor, letting out another one of her pathetic, low-vibe sighs. She sits there radiating pure disapproval, completely unable to appreciate the artistic masterpiece unfolding right in front of her. It is honestly sad how the older generation is so conditioned to value a paycheck over a man who can actually spit pure poetry. She would rather see me lonely with a rich researcher than blissfully happy with a completely available lyrical genius. Her silence is so incredibly loud and manipulative, designed to make me doubt my own flawless intuition. I refuse to let her outdated programming affect my reality, so I am constantly posting videos online bragging about my fully attentive king. My followers deserve to see what a truly aligned relationship looks like when you reject the matrix standards. I film him while he is freestyling, showing the world that a man who doesn't work has all the time to cherish his woman. The comment sections on my feeds are the only place where people actually understand the depth of what we are building together. Sharing our journey is my way of deconstructing the toxic narrative that women should settle for busy, distracted partners. I know with absolute certainty that I made the right choice by prioritizing a present man over an unaligned, busy one. The internet agrees with me, and the digital collective consciousness is far more advanced than my mother's narrow worldview. When you choose high vibe presence, you unlock a level of intimacy that corporate drones like Brandon could never comprehend in their entire lifetimes. Jax is a king because he chooses me over the system every single second of the day. My mother's constant sighing is just proof that she is trapped in the old paradigm, unable to witness true romantic liberation. As Jax finishes his latest track, he looks up and flashes me a smile that completely validates everything I have sacrificed. My mother stands up, rolls her eyes, and prepares to leave my apartment without saying a single encouraging word. Her abrupt departure is just a classic projection of her inability to handle my absolute joy and modern relationship success. She wants me to fail so she can say she was right about Brandon, but her desperate wishful thinking won't affect my timeline. I lock the door behind her, completely relieved to purge her heavy, ungrateful energy from my sacred space. Main story comments. Anonymous user 1 says you're living in a fantasy world if you think a guy with no job is a catch. Flo doesn't pay the rent, girl, and your mom is probably sighing because she realizes she'll be supporting both of you soon. OP's reply: financial security is just a boomer illusion manufactured by the Matrix to keep you enslaved. High vibe presence and absolute emotional alignment are the only real currencies that matter in an ascended relationship. Anonymous user 2 says honestly, you're so right to dump the busy ex. There is nothing worse than a man who uses his career to ignore you. Quality time is everything, and a man who is always busy is just a man who doesn't care. OP's reply: exactly. Brandon completely used his research papers and his endless lab hours as a convenient excuse to avoid actual emotional intimacy. People are just mad they don't have a partner who is 100% dedicated to them. Update 1. It's been 3 weeks since my last update, and I decided to take our alignment to the next level despite my mother's negative predictions. To prove to my mother Teresa once and for all that Jax's absolute availability is a luxury, I officially asked him to move into my apartment. It made perfect sense to merge our energies under one roof where the system couldn't interfere with our daily peace. Why should we waste time living apart when his schedule is completely clear and dedicated to our mutual growth? Bringing him in was a strategic move to show everyone that a full-time partner is the ultimate flex. My main objective was to start filming those aesthetic, co-working and chilling vlogs that perform so incredibly well across all online platforms. The digital community loves seeing curated glimpses of an unconventional, high-vibe lifestyle where love takes priority over labor. I knew our daily routine would inspire thousands of women to stop settling for exhausted, corporate boyfriends. Our content was destined to go viral because we represent the exact antithesis of the exhausted, modern grind culture. Curating the perfect lighting and background became my new passion project to elevate our digital presence. Since Jax has all the time in the world, he is always there to record me, make me coffee, and patiently listen to my deepest thoughts. He acts as my personal videographer, capturing my best angles while ensuring our digital aesthetic looks completely flawless. It is beautiful to have a partner who doesn't rush out the door to some meaningless corporate staff meeting. He spends hours listening to me brainstorm content ideas, providing the ultimate sounding board that I always deserve. This level of undivided attention is precisely what the TikTok relationship gurus promised would happen when you manifest a liberated man. However, I quickly noticed that an artist operating on such a high spiritual frequency needs a lot of creative sustenance to keep his artistic flow going. He cannot just fuel his genius with basic, low-vibe processed foods that disrupt his lyrical channel. I've been buying expensive organic groceries from the high-end markets to ensure his physical vessel is perfectly aligned with his art. My grocery bill has naturally skyrocketed, but I view it as a necessary overhead for cultivating true, unadulterated talent. It is a small price to pay for ensuring his mind remains completely sharp and unburdened by toxic additives. In addition to the premium nutrition, I recently covered a high-end microphone setup for him so he can practice his rap bars right in the living room. He needed professional-grade equipment to truly capture the nuances of his vocal delivery and elevate his sonic brand. The cheap phone microphone was simply insulting to the depth of the poetry he was channeling on a daily basis. I put the entire audio setup on my credit card without hesitation, knowing that true art requires a proper foundation. Now, our living room looks like a legitimate production studio, which only adds to the high-vibe aesthetic of my vlogs. He gently told me that a true artist absolutely cannot create under the vulgar constraint of financial pressure. The capitalist system wants to force creators into survival mode so they stop producing revolutionary thoughts. By shielding him from bills, I am actively protecting his sacred channel from being corrupted by monetary panic. He explained that the universe rewards those who support the arts, and I completely integrated that philosophy into my belief system. It is incredibly profound to witness a man who refuses to compromise his spiritual integrity for a meager paycheck. Because of this deeper understanding, I am more than happy to handle all the living expenses while he gives me his undivided attention. It is a beautiful symbiotic relationship where I provide the material foundation and he provides the ultimate emotional luxury. My friends might think it is strange, but they are still trapped in the old paradigm of transactional dating. They don't understand that having a man completely present for your soul is worth far more than a split dinner bill. I am essentially funding a masterpiece, and the returns on this investment will manifest in ways the matrix cannot quantify. My mother Teresa tried to call me last week to lecture me about budgeting, but I immediately screened her low-frequency call. She just wants to inject her toxic panic into my peaceful sanctuary because she cannot stand seeing me thrive outside her rules. She probably expects me to demand a rent contribution from a man who is literally reshaping my emotional reality. It is hilarious how traditional people think money is the only thing a man can bring to a household. Jax brings peace, art, and a clear schedule, which are things Brandon could never purchase with his fancy research grants. Our aesthetic vlogs are starting to gain serious traction, proving that the internet validates my lifestyle choices. People constantly comment on how lucky I am to have a boyfriend who doesn't ignore me for a laptop screen. Watching the view count rise validates every single dollar I spend on organic avocados and premium studio microphones. I am building an empire based on genuine human connection, completely bypassing the miserable corporate path. Jax looks so incredibly stylish in the background of my videos, embodying the ultimate free-spirited king. I am completely confident that this living arrangement is the ultimate proof of our destiny. Every time he loops a beat and looks into my eyes, I know I have successfully beaten the system. My life has become a beautiful, curated movie where the main character is adored around the clock. Let the critics whisper about finances while they drag themselves to their miserable offices every Monday morning. Jax and I are floating on a higher plane, completely sustained by love, luxury, and incredible flow. Update 1 comments. Anonymous User 1 says you aren't investing in an artist, you're literally funding a grown man's freeloading lifestyle. You are acting like his landlord and his mother, not his girlfriend, and he's totally exploiting you. OP's reply: you are clearly projecting your own lack of abundance mindset onto my situation. I am not a landlord, I am simply investing in his crucial manifestation phase before he completely blows up globally. Anonymous User 2 says he raps in your living room all day, but does he actually make any money? Does he stream his music anywhere or get paid gigs, or is this just an expensive hobby you're paying for? OP's reply: true underground art takes time to mature and cannot be rushed or cheapened by corporate greed. He isn't going to sell his soul to streaming algorithms just to satisfy your matrix-brained idea of productivity. Update 2. It's been 2 months since my last update, and my credit card balances were getting uncomfortably high. The financial apps kept sending me automated notifications about my debt, but I chose to swipe them away because those alerts were just low-vibe distractions. I absolutely refused to let my mother see me sweat or think that her negative predictions were affecting my reality. A true manifestor never acknowledged temporary material scarcity when her spiritual alignment was completely intact. I kept buying whatever Jax needed to sustain his art, maintaining a flawless facade of luxury and abundance for the outside world. To show my mother how deeply integrated Jax is into my life and my family structure, I brought him to Teresa's birthday family dinner. I wanted her to see firsthand how an attentive, present man behaves in a room full of traditional relatives. This dinner was the perfect opportunity to silence the whispers and demonstrate our high-vibe lifestyle to the skeptics. I knew that once my family experienced his magnetic energy, they would stop comparing him to my corporate ex. It was a calculated move to elevate our status and prove that my choices were completely superior. Jax arrived at the upscale restaurant wearing a very eccentric, casual outfit that completely challenged the stuffy dress code of the establishment. He wore an oversized graphic tee, loose streetwear trousers, and a heavy silver chain to protect his creative aura. My relatives immediately looked uncomfortable, which just proved how deeply trapped they are in superficial societal expectations. I felt incredibly proud of him for refusing to conform to the boring, matrix-approved button-down shirts my ex used to wear. Jax was radiating authentic artist energy, showing everyone that he operates far above their petty fashion rules. Throughout the evening, Jax spent the entire time passionately explaining his lyrical philosophy to my highly conservative relatives. He lectured my uncles on how rhyme structures can deconstruct political propaganda and liberate the human mind. He didn't care that they only wanted to talk about golf, real estate, or corporate promotions. He brought real, raw substance to a table that was starved for authentic spiritual conversation. I could see my cousins staring in absolute awe, completely captivated by a man who actually speaks his mind without fear of a corporate HR department. Here is the funny part of the evening that my mother completely overreacted to later on. Jax ordered the most expensive, top-shelf tequila available at the bar because he claimed he needed to catch a vibe. He explained that premium spirits help elevate his consciousness and unlock the creative channel required for meaningful connection. He wasn't just drinking to drink, he was actively preparing his vessel to deliver something profound for the family. I completely understood his artistic process and smiled encouragingly as he ordered round after round of the luxury liquor. He needed that specific vibrational frequency because he wanted to perform an impromptu freestyle tribute for my mom's birthday. Standing up at the head of the table, he began rhyming about aging, the illusion of time, and maternal energy. It was an incredibly raw, underground performance that completely disrupted the boring atmosphere of the fancy restaurant. The surrounding tables were staring at us, which just proved that Jax has the innate power to command an entire room. I was recording everything on my phone, knowing this would make incredible content to prove his absolute dedication to my family. When the massive bill finally arrived at the end of the night, Jax just looked over at me and flashed his signature, carefree smile. He didn't even reach for his pockets because he knows that worrying about paper currency destroys his creative flow. My relatives suddenly went completely silent, awkwardly looking at their napkins as if they expected a jobless artist to pay. To avoid a massive, low-vibe scene in front of the waitstaff, I had to quietly put my credit card down and pay for the entire family dinner. It completely wiped out my remaining credit limit, but maintaining our peace of mind was my top priority. My mother didn't say a single word during the entire ride home. She just looked at me with deep, agonizing pity. That look completely wounded my pride because it was filled with silent judgment and unspoken, "I told you so's." She didn't thank me for the dinner, nor did she praise Jax for his beautiful, custom freestyle tribute. Her narrow mind could only focus on the financial transaction, completely missing the spiritual wealth that Jax had brought to her celebration. It is incredibly frustrating to give someone an unforgettable artistic experience only for them to reduce it to a credit card receipt. The entire family is simply too close-minded to understand the luxury of having a creator in their presence. They are so used to Brandon's boring, transactional etiquette where everyone splits the bill down to the penny. They think paying for dinner is the ultimate form of respect, ignoring the priceless gift of authentic human presence. Jax gave them his time, his words, and his energy, which are things you cannot buy at a bank. Their inability to appreciate his genius is a reflection of their own lack, not a flaw in my boyfriend's character. Despite the financial sting and my mother's pathetic pity, I know I am still winning this paradigm war. I woke up the next morning and edited the video of his freestyle tribute, adding a high vibe filter to mask the tension at the table. My online community immediately flooded the post with praise, calling him a supportive king for honoring my mother. The digital world sees the truth of our relationship even when my biological family remains completely blind. I will continue to fund this lifestyle because true love requires sacrificing matrix comforts for a higher artistic purpose. Update 2 comments. Anonymous user 1 says the second-hand embarrassment is off the charts here. Your boyfriend wore streetwear to an upscale birthday dinner, ordered the most expensive tequila, and made you pay for your own mother's party while he did an awkward rap tribute? OP's reply: you completely lack artistic sensitivity and are clearly stuck in traditional, toxic norms. Jax brought authentic soul to a stuffy corporate environment, which is worth infinitely more than a restaurant bill. Anonymous user 2 says I bet your ex Brandon would have handled that dinner like a professional and actually paid for your mom's birthday instead of freestyling about aging. OP's reply: Brandon would have spent the entire dinner checking his research emails under the table and ignoring everyone anyway. I prefer a man who is actually present, not a corporate robot who pays bills to hide his emotional void. Update 3. It's been 4 months since my last update, and my financial situation had officially turned into an absolute nightmare. The bank accounts were completely drained, and the bill collectors were starting to disrupt my high-vibe peace with constant phone calls. This material chaos happened because Jax's full availability now required my constant, unyielding participation in his reality. He could not maintain his high-frequency creative alignment if I was constantly distracted by external matrix responsibilities. Our connection became so intense that he needed my constant presence to anchor his artistic soul. He started developing intense separation anxiety whenever I left the apartment to go to my actual corporate job. He explained that my corporate workplace has a very toxic, low-vibe energy that clings to me when I return home. To protect his art, he demanded that I stay home from work to help him co-create content and validate his lyrics in real time. He literally cannot find his flow unless I am sitting on the couch right beside him, acting as his spiritual anchor. I viewed his demands as a beautiful sign of his deep devotion and complete reliance on our twin flame bond. Because I chose to prioritize my relationship alignment, I ended up missing 2 critical strategy meetings at my office. I couldn't just leave him alone in the apartment while he was in the middle of a massive creative breakthrough. My corporate bosses, who are completely trapped in the master-slave dynamic, did not understand my spiritual absence. They treated my dedication to my partner as a lack of professional responsibility, which is completely unfair. I was officially passed over for a major promotion that I had been working toward for over a year. The ultimate irony and humiliation came when I found out through my mother Teresa that the promotion went to someone else. She called me to gleefully report that the position was given to Brandon's new girlfriend. Hearing that a woman aligned with my toxic ex was succeeding in the Matrix completely shattered my composure. It felt like a direct, targeted attack from the universe to test my commitment to my high-vibe lifestyle. My mother used the opportunity to sigh again and remind me of everything I supposedly threw away. To overcompensate for this temporary humiliation and prove to everyone that Jax is a legitimate star, I knew I had to take drastic action. I refused to let the Matrix win or let my family think that my career setback meant my lifestyle was a failure. I took out a high-interest emergency loan from an online lender to fund Jax's career advancement. The interest rate was absolutely terrifying, but I knew the universe would manifest the returns once his art went global. I used the capital to rent a professional recording studio for his upcoming, highly anticipated, album drop. Now, my daily reality consists of being forced to sit in that dark, cold recording studio for 8 hours every single day. I am completely broke, physically exhausted, and mentally drained from managing the logistics of his production. I have to keep him constant company because he flat out refuses to create a single lyric without me in the room. If I step out to get fresh air, his flow completely evaporates and he blames me for ruining his artistic momentum. I am trapped in a soundproof box, watching him repeat the same rap bars over and over while my debt accumulates. Even though I am running on pure exhaustion, I keep telling myself that this is what true loyalty looks like. The internet always says that behind every great man is a woman who believed in his vision when no one else did. I am just playing the role of the ultimate supportive partner, securing his legacy before the world recognizes his genius. My mother thinks I am destroying my life, but she has never experienced a love that requires total creative sacrifice. Brandon never needed me like this, which just proves that our past relationship was completely shallow and devoid of real purpose. Jax keeps promising that the album drop will solve all our financial problems and silence the haters forever. He says the tracks are so revolutionary that the streaming platforms will have no choice but to pay us millions. I hold on to that promise like a lifeline while the high-interest loan company sends daily warning emails. Every beat he mixes feels like a gamble that absolutely must pay off to save me from total ruin. I have sacrificed my career, my reputation, and my peace of mind for this artistic breakthrough. My current suffering is entirely the fault of a rigid corporate system that punishes women for prioritizing love. If my job had been more flexible and understanding of my partner's spiritual needs, I would have gotten that promotion. They chose to reward Brandon's girlfriend because she is a compliant drone who sacrifices her life for a company. I am proud to be outside of that sick cycle, even if it means sitting in a dark studio with $0. True freedom is expensive, and I am simply paying the temporary price for cosmic liberation. As the studio session ends tonight, Jax reminds me that our struggles are just part of our grand manifestation story. I nod along, ignoring the intense panic tightening in my chest as I look at my empty bank app. We are on the precipice of absolute greatness, and I refuse to let low-vibe fear ruin our impending success. Tomorrow we will return to the studio, and he will spit the bars that liberate us from this financial matrix forever. My mother will finally have to swallow her sighs when Jax becomes the voice of a generation. Update 3 comments. Anonymous user 1 says you literally destroyed your own career progression and missed out on a major promotion just to sit on a couch and watch a jobless man rhyme. This isn't a partnership, it's a slow-motion car crash of your own making. OP's reply corporate titles and Matrix promotions are completely empty and hollow compared to a soulful, artistic partnership. I chose human alignment over a fancy job title, something your capitalist mind can't grasp. Anonymous user 2 says taking out a high-interest emergency loan for an unreleased rap album is absolute madness. You are heading straight toward total financial ruin for someone who wouldn't even work a shift at a grocery store for you. OP's reply money comes and goes because it's just energy, but true loyalty and creative genius are incredibly rare to find in this world. Jax's album is going to manifest more abundance than your tiny savings account could ever hold. Update 4. It's been 6 months since my last update, and everything in my meticulously curated reality had completely collapsed. The high vibe illusion shattered into a million sharp pieces, leaving me entirely exposed to the brutal elements of the material world. The high-interest loan payments finally caught up to me, auto-drafting from my account until my balance hit absolute zero. There was no more credit left to borrow, no more matrix illusions to hide behind, and no more energy to manifest. The harsh truth of my financial situation became an undeniable emergency that I could no longer swipe away. Last week, the overwhelming weight of the debt finally broke my spirit, and I had a complete emotional breakdown in front of Jax. I sat on the living room floor, tears streaming down my face, completely stripped of my usual high-frequency confidence. I looked at him and finally spoke the forbidden words that I had been hiding for months. I told him that I could no longer afford the professional studio rentals that were draining my lifeblood. I admitted that the high-end Uber Eats orders and the expensive organic groceries had to stop immediately if we wanted to survive. I explicitly told him that I needed to completely refocus all my energy on my actual job to save myself from impending bankruptcy. There was no more room for co-creating content or sitting on the couch validating his daily lyrics. I needed to work overtime, repair my ruined professional reputation, and beg my bosses for forgiveness. The fantasy lifestyle had to be paused so I could deal with the real-world consequences of my choices. I begged him to understand that this was a matter of survival, hoping he would offer some form of emotional support. Instead of comforting me, Jax looked down at me with an expression of complete and utter disgust. His eyes, which I once thought were filled with soulful artistic depth, became entirely cold and transactional. There was no empathy in his posture, no love in his voice, and no high vibe alignment in his energy. He looked at my tears as if they were a personal insult to his lifestyle and his creative space. The mask of the spiritual, unbothered king dropped instantly, revealing a profoundly selfish person underneath. Without saying a single word of comfort, he stood up and began packing his high-end microphone into his backpack. Within less than an hour, he had cleared out his entire creative audio setup from my living room. He gathered his expensive streetwear clothes, his silver chains, and every single trace of his existence. I watched in absolute shock as the man who supposedly dedicated all his time to me prepared to abandon ship. He didn't hesitate for a single second, prioritizing his equipment over the woman who had funded his life. As he swung his backpack over his shoulder, he delivered a parting speech that completely exposed his toxic philosophy. He told me that my low-vibe financial stress was actively suffocating his creative genius and destroying his channel. He claimed that by worrying about bankruptcy, I was dragging him down into the corporate matrix he had worked so hard to escape. He looked at me and stated that I was no longer emotionally present for his art because I was too obsessed with bills. He twisted my financial ruin into a personal failure of mine, claiming I had broken our spiritual contract. He literally broke up with me right then and there because my financial ruin meant I could no longer spend 24 hours a day catering to him. The absolute availability that I had bragged about online was never a sign of his love for me. It was a condition of his employment as a full-time parasite living off my credit cards and my apartment. The second the money stopped flowing, his undivided attention vanished along with it. He didn't want a present partner, he wanted a silent investor who would fund his delusions without asking for a return. Now, I am left sitting alone in a completely empty, silent apartment that I can no longer afford. I have massive, high-interest debts that will take me years of soul-crushing corporate labor to pay off. My career reputation is severely tarnished because I skipped critical strategy meetings for a man who didn't even respect my sacrifices. The aesthetic vlogs mean absolutely nothing now, just digital ghosts of a lifestyle built entirely on credit card debt. The online community that validated my madness has moved on to the next viral relationship trend. To make matters infinitely worse, I received a text message from my mother Teresa yesterday morning. The text contained a single photograph of Brandon celebrating at his magnificent PhD graduation gala. He was surrounded by colleagues, looking incredibly successful, genuinely happy, and completely secure in his bright future. Standing right next to him was his new girlfriend, wearing the success and the promotion that should have been mine. My mother didn't even add a caption, letting the image deliver the ultimate, devastating blow to my shattered pride. Looking at that photo, the bitter realization of my own complete delusion finally washed over me without any filters. My absolute obsession with having a fully available E-man turned me into a bankrupt audience member for a parasite. I allowed TikTok relationship gurus to dictate my reality, completely blinding myself to the basic mechanics of human maturity. Jax never loved me, he loved the convenience of an uninterrupted workspace and a free ride at my expense. The second the show wasn't funded by my credit cards, the artist packed his bags and left without looking back. I sacrificed everything real for a beautifully curated internet lie, and now I have to pay the ultimate price. There is no high-vibe manifest shifting that can erase the massive debt or restore the career I sabotaged. Brandon was building a tangible reality while Jax was just spinning empty words to keep himself comfortable on my couch. I am left with nothing but the loud, echoey silence of an empty apartment and the crushing weight of my own regret. The Matrix didn't ruin me, my own desperate need for digital validation and effortless fairy tales did.